Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to season 2. You guys have stuck around with us through one whole year, so we thought we would bring in the new season with one of the greatest topics of all time, the Great
Yeah,
Khans.
yeah, that's right. We're going to the Mongolian Empire. The part of it that is actually Mongolia, which is fun because most of it's not.
And
Fun or Mongolia?
Most of it's not Mongolia. All of it is very fun. If your definition of fun is bloody warfare.
and now what is before we go any further, introductions. My name's Justin Woods. I'm here today with my fellow co-host Colum Coleman and Aaron Gilpin. We like to jump into these a little too quickly before we do the formalities.
We have been in queue for like 40 minutes. I am ready to go with this. There have been so many questions as to what exactly to bring to you here to start off our very first second season. Because, well, we've not even been on YouTube for a full year. We've already started our second season because we started late in December.
Correction,
And
our
this
YouTube
video
channel was created December 7th. So we actually just passed 1 year.
Oh, thank God.
Yes.
Oh yeah, on Wednesday,
Yep.
Yay, we did it. We did
the
it.
anniversary of
You-
Pearl Harbor.
Hear the Shut up, you. I did not intend that when I made this.
Speak for
But dear
yourself.
God, do I love that it happened.
Speak for yourself,
wow.
Colum.
Guys, did you hear that? Column's glad that Pearl Harbor happened.
Oh no!
I love that we share a date with something famous.
That way you don't have to remember two separate dates. You just remember the one, and it's a catch-all.
I mean, come on, we have we started on the day of infamy, and that just speaks to me personally, and that speaks to today's topic, which is something very infamous, which is the Mongolians and their Khans and their empire. They are very infamous, especially our main character for tonight. So we'll be talking to you about the Great Khans tonight. These are the Khans that are universally recognized by all the tribes of Mongolia as their king, as their Khan. There is no internal feuding. There is no failure to recognize and pay heed. The Khans and the Mongolians operate as a single political unit during this period. Later on, they fragment into about a half dozen different empires, some of which go to the 20th century. But our story begins in 1206 CE, where a young man, Temujin, son of Yasugi, will be named Genghis Khan.
Yasugi, where have I heard that name before?
I don't know.
I tried looking up all of the pros of visiting Mongolia, but all I could find were the cons.
Here we go.
Starting them early, boys.
Yep, here we go. So, to start off with, the Mongolian Empire that Genghis Khan is going to kickstart in 1206 was the largest contiguous land empire in human history. It began in the Asian steppe, and it borders and at the Pacific Ocean, the Persian Gulf, and the Danube River.
So that's bigger than Rome?
It's bigger than it's bigger than Rome, it's bigger than Alexander, it's bigger than the Russian Empire. It's bigger than basically until we start getting into boats and conquering the Western Hemisphere, this is the biggest empire human history ever gets a hold of.
Wow.
And it's also the largest contiguous land empire because it's a single connected polity. You could walk from one end to the other without ever having to get in a boat.
Which
like from probably like say, did the Mongols ever take what's now or what was the Kingdom of Hungary?
They invade Hungary. However, the death of the Khan forces them to retreat after seizing it, so they never actually set up there. Big downside of the Mongol structure here. All your generals are technically in line for the throne, so when you die, they all rush back to Mongolia to try and claim it.
So the opposite of Alexander, where all of his generals were just friends of his and decided to carve it up.
Yeah, all your generals are basically your kids.
Fair enough.
See,
uh,
So essentially, you could walk from like Moscow to
you
Beijing.
you could walk from Warclaw to Seoul.
wow.
Ooh.
Also, kind of interesting and a slight callback, but this is the closest we've ever gotten to the Heartland thesis.
Yeah, that was a whole that was a whole nother video. That's it. We're gonna have to link. Well, you're gonna have to link Justin. The was it that was an explains, I believe,
Yeah.
that I had you do. Yeah, very fun theory on the Heartland thesis. Why don't you go into it since you mentioned it in the podcast and we don't have enough to talk about as is?
Yeah, give us a quick rundown.
All right, I'll give you the elevator pitch on the Heartland thesis. Basically, at the turn of the century in the 1900s, it was theorized that one country could effectively dominate and be the main central polity if they were to conquer the world continent, which effectively is Europe, Asia, and Africa. That's all connected, and basically, in doing so, having a land empire, you could control pretty much everything that happens in the world. But it had a slight few downfalls. Mainly, it doesn't take America into account, north or south. And then, secondly, they also just kind of didn't realize that airplanes and better boats would become a thing, and that water is an important part of colonization. So yeah, it kind of failed and never actually became a thing. But good old Genghis Khan got us as close as we'll ever be.
Yep.
That's
So
true, yeah, because they were a real threat even to the Byzantines.
yeah, they were a threat to the Byzantines.
They destroyed the
the
golden age of Islam.
yeah, well, not necessarily. Yeah, they not necessarily. See, fun fact: the only country to militarily unilaterally defeat the Mongols in battle are the Mamluks of Egypt.
That's true, yeah.
Mongols never win a battle against them. They win and lose some in India. They win constantly against Hungary and the Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantines. And they never actually cross blades with Japan because they all die before they get to the shore.
You mean the horses can't cross the water?
No, no, there's some very fun stuff there, but that's for another time. So
So who's
we will
Tentament?
begin. the the Mongolians consist of a decentralized patrilineal clans of horsemen uh, under the central authority of what is called a Khan. Now, the only government that these people had was a group of close personal advisors that the Khan appointed to give him some insight into military and political affairs that he was dealing with. They had a very sophisticated and complex military chain of command that was very rigidly enforced and very well structured. Zero political or administrative functions. These people are nomadic. They do not settle long enough to actually have a need for things like bylaws and bureaucracy. um, any counselor that is appointed by the Khan has sweeping authority. If you get appointed by this man, you are basically a dictator until he says otherwise. You can do what you want, say what you want, because you are literally speaking with his voice.
Oh, that's neat.
Um, and one of the very progressive things about the Mongol tribes, especially early on in the 13th century, is appointment to a Khan's council had nothing to do with your race and ethnicity. Some of the most prominent advisors, some of the most powerful men of Mongolia are often conquered people or people from rival tribes. What mattered was that you were good at your job and the Khan liked you.
Wow.
And that there was no racial aspect. There was no preference.
So
If I
Mongolian
remember correctly,
nepotism wasn't racist.
if I
No.
remember correctly, there is a very fun running gag from Crash Course with his World History with John Green, or not John Green, yeah, John Green, where anything that typically happened in the rest of the world didn't really apply to the Mongols. In fact, the saying was usually like, This was pretty common, except for the
except in
Mongols.
except in Mongolia. Yeah. And
Uh,
one of the reasons why this is so good for the Mongolians is these are nomadic horsemen, and they very quickly begin to conquer after 1206. A lot of centralized states. They start attacking northeast China. They start moving into uh, into Persia and Iraq and all the rest of them. And very quickly, the Mongolians are vastly outnumbered by the people they rule, by all these conquered ethnicities. So the ability for these conquered peoples to rise up to the point of being the right hand of, the Khan is a very good and useful tool for them to have for keeping the conquered peoples in line. Because, sure, you might be Hisa Hisa, but you could be as powerful as a king.
I mean, that also makes sense anyway, because even there's no guarantee that like the previous system was beneficial for them anyway. And if the new system that comes in is more beneficial for them, especially if one of their own can actually gain power and actually like improve their lives.
Yeah. That's about where it ends, because the ability to jump the ladder is about the only good thing to having Mongol rule over you. The Mongolians despise agriculture and go out of their way to destroy it.
Honestly, in hindsight, they might have
There is
been onto something.
there are Mongol laws stating that it is illegal to defend your crops from game animals. And there are several Mongol initiatives to turn the entirety of China from a rice growing region into a game preserve for the Mongols to hunt in.
That would be a hilarious
This
tournament.
does not go over well with anyone.
What you're saying is the Mongols were the first, like, preservationists. They were the first ones to propose nature reserves. They were good. They knew that China would be in an ecological disaster.
And in the process, they attempted to starve about 750 million people.
Well, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing out the downside. I thought it was a good plan.
That's the point.
Remind us never to put Justin in charge of bureaucracy.
I hear Justin's the new head of the Department of Agriculture.
God take all the Midwest and turn it into a forest.
Yep.
I mean, at least with Illinois, that's kind of what it was originally.
Except Chicago was a swamp.
It's not now. Just a different kind. But yes. And so this all begins in 1206 on the banks of the Onon River, where a federation of Mongol-speaking and Turkic tribes were united when they chose to elect. Yes, the Khans are a democracy. You elect a Khan. You do not appoint him. He does not inherit the throne. You elect him.
Who's it elected by?
The other tribal leaders, who gain their authority by birthright or murder.
That's close enough.
It's as close as we're gonna get until for another 400 years. So let it happen.
Just let it be.
Yeah. They elect Temujin as Genghis Khan. And from 1206 to 1234, Genghis Khan goes on the warpath. The Mongol tribes have been united for the first time in history, and Genghis knows they are a force to be reckoned with. Genghis knows he's a military and political genius. He had to be in order to get all these people to unify behind them. In fact, prior to 1206, there is a multifaceted civil war that Genghis fights to make himself the most powerful of the Khans before forcing this election.
Oh, you know what they say? It's Genghis Khan, not Genghis can't.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's
my Mongolia joke earlier was good. That was terrible.
And for the first 30 years of the empire here under Genghis, the Mongols imposed their traditional system of conquest in war, which is the total enslavement of any conquered population, during which the enslaved populace becomes the personal property of the commanding officer of whoever the hell happened to get to them.
Interesting
so first come,
policy,
first
but
serve.
Yep. This was
Like a
designed.
buffet.
Yep. Yeah. This was designed so that the enslaved populace could be integrated into the Mongol tribe. You know, a Dothraki who can't ride is no Dothraki at all. This is the principle here.
yeah.
The idea is that they are taking you, that they have conquered you. You're enslaved. You're part of their household, even though you are a slave, and eventually you're just sort of integrated as one of them. It's this weird acculturation process.
Kind of like how the Romans did it, like where you wouldn't necessarily, if you were a slave, but then were freed, but then after a few generations, you could be considered.
That's the freedman property. This is different. This is different in the sense that like you are expected to make the jump in your lifetime.
Really?
You're expected, yeah, because you're expected to. This is Mongol warfare, and what they're used to doing is, I am the tribe of Temujin. You are the tribe of, say, I'm going to use Temujin's father, Yasugi. If Temujin conquers Yasugi's people are expected to join Temujin's tribe. And they start off as slaves. They're held in bondage. They're forced to do whatever you tell them to do. And over time, they're expected to be given more and more privileges as they become more and more like you.
Oh, okay.
This is designed for bands of about, 40 or so families conquering bands of 40 or so families. It does not work out the same when you conquer a city of thousands.
Okay,
As the Mongols slowly find out. But it goes pretty back and forth. These people, they acted with no disregard for any existing bureaucracy, political machinery, or politics. Basically, it didn't care how you saw yourself in relation to these other people. You were conquered foreigner. It did not matter that that's a Persian, that's Hisa, that's Song Dynasty Chinese. You were the same person to them. They did not understand these differences. They really don't care, and this causes a very interesting cycle for the Mongolians, because basically they have no interest in governing. They have only interest in conquest.
What's the point of conquest if you don't govern?
More conquest. Now they can conquer the people next to you. It's all about getting at that next domino. Yeah. So,
Real Alexander the Great vibes here, guys.
Yes, there's a reason it never stops. They're pure expansionism. That's their one foreign policy. So there's this direct decentralized exploitation by the Mongol officers, where basically they come in, they loot, they pillage, they enslave, they get whatever they're going to get out of it. Then they basically just let whatever previous government was there start running shit again while paying deference to them.
Smart, keep the system in place and just have the money come in.
This freed up the military officers from administrative duties to go to the next territory over, conquer it, pillage, enslave, exploit,
rinse and repeat.
Repeat for about 600 years.
So essentially, it's more of like the city just. It's kind of like they took the city, raised a new flag, and said, "All right, you get to continue to do the same thing, whatever you want."
Yeah, it's like, now pay taxes. Basically, they scratched out the name of whoever was king and wrote their name in. It's like, you now pay fealty and taxes too. Genghis Khan.
Okay.
Just in graffiti.
Well, one of the nice things about this, with a few exceptions, well, one key exception, the people the Mongols conquer, their culture survives, continues. It integrates with the Mongolians. The Mongolians actually become less Mongolian rather than the conquered peoples becoming less themselves.
Damn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it allows for this massive empire instead of creating a monolith of culture stretching from the Mediterranean to the Pacific, it allows everyone to continue living their lives. It's kind of nice. It's like inverse colonialism. You're invaded and conquered, but you're not forced to emulate your oppressor.
Yeah.
It's
Kinda.
weird. It's an inverted ideology there. Um and yes, we are and the empire is considered, fun fact, it is, most empires are considered the property of their emperors. A lot, like with, for example, the Romans, Aaron, the empire, all its public lands, all its public works were the personal property of the Roman emperor.
Yeah.
The Khan does not own anything. The entirety of the empire, every living soul in it, every stretch of land, every drop of water, is the property of not the Khan, but the entire imperial family as a collective.
That's interesting.
Because they were so decentralized and in so many places at once, they all had to accept joint ownership and work together or perish.
That's fair.
And it's this very interesting thing. And so what we're going to be talking about mostly today is we're going to focus on the period of unity, which is everything prior to 1260. This is where the central Khan is recognized by everyone in the imperial clan, by every Mongol tribe. There is no dissent against your rule. Everything after 1260, all the territories, all the different factions of the imperial clan, they all kind of start acting as independent kings rather than as a single unified military. And things go to hell. They go to hell in a handbasket in so many different ways, but we're going to start off here with the reign of Genghis Khan. We finally get through all that text to talk about Genghis.
Yay.
Yep. He starts off as the ruler of Mongolia in 1206, and he goes until 1227, which is 21 years is a pretty decent rule, especially for a Khan. Especially even more so for a Khan of the great Khans of the period of unity. These people usually don't last very long. But yes, he fights several wars in order to become Khan. He beats the Kariat and the Nayman Turks around Lake Baikal in what I think is either still Mongolia or maybe southern Russia. I'm not too certain on the geography there. And when he gets elected,
Baikal's in Russia.
Yeah, Baikal. So he's fighting in Russia, and because of these military victories, when he goes to the Onan River, no one dares challenge him when he calls for his election as Khan. And thus he is elected Khan of all Mongols.
Wow.
And that grants him dominion over modern Mongolia and a little bit more. And his rule is a pretty prosperous one for the Mongols. One of his key acts is he appoints Kitan Yelu Chikai to his council. Kitan is a Jin with Chinese education, which makes him one of the most well-educated foreigners at the court of Genghis Khan, and one of the most well-educated men in the empire. This man will serve multiple Khans and is kind of the administrative backbone that holds these early Khans together. He is responsible for stopping Genghis Khan from turning all of China into pastures. On account of your subjects would starve and rebel, and then you would have nothing, sir.
I still think having the game reserve isn't a bad idea.
You mean turn all of China into a game reserve?
Not
Technically, it's all of China north of the Yellow River because the Song Dynasty holds everything to the south and they don't get conquered yet.
That's still a lot.
They got plenty of space.
You can't.
Conquering,
What's the point if you
conquering,
can't? You grow food.
literally starving hundreds of thousands to death. Literally
Justin,
starving hundreds. The war
Okay,
crimes people commit will be more than enough to satisfy your bloodlust. I promise.
we're on the wrong channel. Justin, this isn't D&D.
no, I'm not saying kill hundreds of
Uh,
thousands. I'm just saying having a game reserve is not a bad idea.
yeah. Yeah. The other key thing that he does with his appointments that is going to really kickstart the Mongolian Empire is he has a bit of a favoritism thing with the Uyghur people when it comes to appointing them to his council. So
Correction, Uyghur.
Uyghur. Thank you, Uyghur. Thank you. I can't pronounce anything in
Yes.
this thing. Lovely.
Ooh, there's a few.
I don't
So-
know whether I should
Documenting
correct you or
now.
let you misspeak.
Just correct it, okay? Help
Okay.
me get through this, okay? These are people who have been dead for 700 years speaking languages that have never heard English.
Actually, Uyghurs still exist to this day, and they're actually facing a lot of persecution in
These are-
modern day China.
I'm referring to the people we're specifically talking about. The Uyghurs we are referring to have been dead for centuries.
Well, those ones, yes, but they're
Yes,
descendants.
the specific individuals we are talking about never heard English and have been dead for centuries. That's what I'm talking about, Justin.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
We can do it. We can do an explain on the plight of the Uyghurs later if that's what you want. But
You don't
so
want to get killed by Chinese spies.
he favors the Uyghurs when it comes to his council. These are a Turkic-speaking people of northwest China, and Uyghur becomes the lingua franca of the Mongol court alongside the actual Mongol language.
Wait, really?
Yep, it's basically like how it's the second language. It becomes the Mongol language is the language of rulers, but the Uyghur language is the language of government.
So essentially, that's kind of what happened with Romans, where Greek was spoken as like the philosophical language, but Latin was still by law the administration language.
Yeah, Latin
cool.
is the language of the land and the rulers. Uyghur is the language of government.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the reason for this is Mongol has no written script. Uyghur does, and the written script for Uyghur translates pretty well into the sounds the Mongols made. So they begin writing Mongolian using the Uyghur script.
Oh, that's so cool.
And 1224, we have the first written document ever produced by the Mongolians.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
And it is Mongol written in Uyghur.
So is that the Uyghur? So is that the alphabet they use?
Yeah, it's the Uyghur is the script that they used. Uyghur is not alphabetized, I believe, as are most languages in that region. But basically, they are writing they're writing with like Mongolian using Uyghur script. It's
So there is like a noticeable difference then, right?
There is a difference. It's the Mongol language used in this writing system.
Okay.
Sort of like how how French and English both use the Latin alphabet
or Arabic numerals.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, where it's like it's a different language using the same script.
Okay.
And that's the big introduction there. The third thing he does that's really quite fun for us is he doesn't impose centralized rule. He gives all his local appanages, which is the land that he appoints people to hold in trust, autonomy to determine their own taxes and their own system of economics. This is a bad idea. Not for him, but for people about a half a century down the line. Because this is step one on the Mongol Empire shaking itself apart. He keeps the focus of the empire on military affairs. He does not enrich himself or Mongolia from conquest. He could very easily have turned all of Mongolia into cities of gold. He doesn't. He focuses on taking down the next target. This is a warrior and a huntsman. He has no time for governance, nor does anyone else in his empire, it seems.
It's very interesting too, though, when you mention it like that, because one, it's almost like he just didn't have time or effort for the money that came along with it, but also it's kind of impressive that it wasn't monetarily focused, but at the same time, it was bloodlust. So,
his focus, his goal is not wealth but power. He wants dominion over as much of the earth as possible. He wants to be basically Asian Alexander, to weep for there are no worlds left to conquer. He does not know about Alexander, but he's on the same path.
He's got the same idea. It's just history rhyming with itself.
It's the same set of personality traits, more or less. This makes his empire a collection of different peoples held together solely by military dominion. Which, fun fact, when the Mongols conquered you, you basically joined their military, which meant most conquering Mongol armies had almost no Mongolians in them.
We got destroyed by the Mongolians.
Again, there's like 15 Mongolian commanders, and then it's just an army of Jin, Hisa, Persians, whatever the hell was at hand, marching on you. And somehow mutinies do not occur.
How did they even get how did communication even work?
Probably you need to have had translators, but like
also remember that severe lack of ethnic racism in appointing people to high positions.
Yeah.
Guess what happened when you were bilingual?
Oh, immediately.
He speaks
You're
two
immediately
languages.
the right hand of the general.
I
It's
mean,
like,
yeah, I
you're
guess
a
that's effective.
You're a Medes, you're a Scythian. I don't care. You speak. I speak Mongol and Uyghur. You speak Scythian and Uyghur. You speak Median Uyghur. You both are coming with me.
Well, I guess America should really take a lesson. If you speak two languages, you're safe for a lot of reasons.
You're safe. You are safe from the 13th century Mongols. That's for certain.
Oh no.
So yeah, pick up a single language, everybody.
Yeah. Then Genghis Khan does the single most fateful thing in Mongolian history. Well, he is alive.
He opens a Mongolian barbecue.
Mongolian barbecue's great.
He divvies up his empire, not into Mongolian barbecues,
Oh.
into 4 ulus for his 4 legitimate sons. Now, some of you may know that Genghis Khan has a reputation for certain acts of virility.
He had a lot of kids. A lot of them.
Somehow, the man who is claimed to be a father of 1,000 men managed to only have 4 legitimate heirs.
No, I can believe it. I can really believe it.
He managed to only have 4. So, because the empire is the property of that imperial clan as a whole, it's no blow to his authority to start giving his sons little kingdoms to rule and conquer and expand on their own. Each son rules an ulus, which is actually not a territorial claim. It's authority over a group of people, which you then use to conquer other people over which you have authority. And those people have territorial claims that you then subvert for yourself. And because it's also authority over people and not land, it's perfectly acceptable for Mongol armies to kill each other. Because you're fighting over land. I'm not taking your ulus, I'm just taking your land. This comes into play after the Great Khans.
Yeah, I understand. There's no way I could possibly see that going poorly.
Yeah.
It's always about power.
Yep. Yeah. And so he divides up his rule into among his 4 sons. The first is I believe Tolui, who receives what is known as the East. This is northeastern China and the heartland of Mongolia. Tolui is his firstborn son. It's his favored son. Tului will rule during the interregnum period between the death of Genghis Khan and the election of the next Khan. He also is probably the man who gets shafted the most out of all of Genghis Khan's relatives.
Oh, poor dude.
This poor man can have nothing go right in his life.
How bad could it really be?
He gets passed over on the line of succession 6 times.
6?
Even though he
Then
helped
he
run?
dies.
Or like
He then we have Ogadai, who receives the Western Steppes, which is northern Yanyin province, which I can't pronounce and I completely choked trying to say, and the western edge of Mongolia. Chagatai, who will go on and found the Chagatai Khans.
Xinjiang is what you're
Xinjiang.
trying to say.
Xinjiang, thank you. Chagatai, who will form the Chagatai Khans, receives Karakitai, which is northern Iran and southern Xinjiang province. Chagatai is pretty successful for himself. He's also not very nice.
yeah.
Even among like he does not get along with most of his family for the longest time.
Oof.
And finally, Jochi receives the Golden Horde, which is southwest Siberia and western Turkestan. Jochi dies prior to the death of Genghis Khan by a few months, and so it's his son Batu that's going to be causing problems for everyone when Genghis Khan finally dies.
God damn it, Batu. Wait,
Then-
is he the one that treks all the way back?
Yeah, Batu abandons Hungary to attempt to enforce a claim onto the Grand Khanate, which he doesn't actually succeed in enforcing.
Which, if he didn't stop the conquest of Hungary, imagine where we'd be now, or where they would have gone to now.
Well, actually, they would have had control. They would have invaded Austria, and they actually would have already had control of the Holy Roman Empire since they had just annihilated the Holy Roman Empire's armies on their way through Poland to conquer Hungary.
Wow.
So they basically the border of the Mongolian Empire would have stretched from the Balkans to the
To the French.
to the
Oh,
Rhine
God!
River.
Oh no!
To the Rhine River. Yes, it would have not have been. There would have been no Habsburgs. It would have been the Bourbons versus the Khans.
That would have been a great plot twist.
Real Housewives of
history,
Europe would have
everybody.
been real good.
Alternate history, everybody. And finally, there is Hulegu, who is the son of Tului, who adds the 5th subdivision with the Ilkhanid dynasty of Iran, Iraq, and Syria. Yeah. And so by the time we get done with Genghis Khan, they rule from the Caspian Sea to the China Sea, from the Siberian forests to the Pamir highlands of Tibet. They rule Central Asia. Undisputedly.
God.
And he dies during the second invasion of the Hissa Hisia in 1227, which is really bad for them on account of Genghis Khan is dead on campaign against them, which means that even though they don't kill him, the Mongolian armies blame them for his death, the death of the one man to unite them and make them prosperous conquerors of the world. They take out their frustrations and annihilate the culture.
Holy
It is
Jesus.
it is not the Mongols, who are known for mass enslavement, who are known for very much acts of genocide and war crimes. This is the one true act of genocide they commit, where they go through and they make sure that there is nothing left.
fuck.
They do their best to wipe this culture from the face of the earth, for daring to be the people they were attacking when the king died.
I also think it's interesting, kind of circling to the topic of Genghis's death, is
Mhm.
the place where he was buried, the soldiers who dug his grave were also killed and buried
Yep.
there, and then the people who killed them were also, in fact, killed upon their return. So the true location of the gravesite was
Yeah.
forever lost.
Legend has it that 1,000 horses ran over the ground to disguise the path of the funerary procession, and also legend has it that the Mongolian horde diverted the Onan River to cover Genghis Khan's tomb so that no man may ever disturb it.
God. So
That's the legend.
you could tell the level of reverence that they had for this one man, though.
Yeah,
Truly.
and it was tradition that you make sure that the body would never be disturbed among uh, Khans, and you also buried them anonymously so that no one would go looking for it.
Which kind of begs the question of, like, if we were to discover Genghis's body in the modern day, one, I guess in theory you could DNA test and just like one man's gonna have, 6 million
Yeah.
modern descendants, or like if it's anonymous and like truly nothing to distinguish him, it's possible the remains may have been found and destroyed or relocated or any number of things, because they're not going to go through all the process to try and identify him if there's nothing
you,
notable.
you are buried with grave goods.
Okay.
The point is that your body must never be disturbed. Therefore, the place of your burial must be kept secret at all costs.
Even if it was found, I doubt like the current Mongolian nation state,
They are
would
adamantly
allow it.
they're adamantly against any attempt to discover his grave on account of the fact that that is sacrilegious and against what he would have wanted and against what they want for him. By disturbing his grave, uh, you would be, insulting them. In fact, there is one Khan whose grave was found by the Russians, uh, and and it was found by Joseph Stalin. And things went so poorly for him in the following months that he ordered it reburied with full honors exactly where it was found, so that the curse would please stop torturing him.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Joseph
Joseph
Stalin.
Stalin was afraid of a
Joseph
dead
Stalin
Khan.
Well,
was
yeah,
cursed by a
Stalin fuel.
con
I
spirit.
believe, yeah, on account of the fact that Russians did not care, they found a Khan. It was not Genghis; it was one of his successors. I think there's a note on it here. It might be buried, it might not. I don't know. It wasn't Guyuk. Was it? It wasn't Guyuk. It wasn't Ogadai. It might be Temur. It might be Temur, one of the Wan dynasty Khans.
Timur the Lame?
No, that's the first one, grandson of Kublai.
Oh, okay.
I think that might have been the one they found, but I'm not certain. It's in here somewhere.
That's
I
still
think
insane.
there's 10 pages of bullet points that we are reaching from to bring this to you. There is a lot of cons.
No, and there's a lot of pros. Let's
Yeah.
be full.
Cons are pros, but yes. So we spent a lot of time on Genghis, so I'm gonna give us a quick speed run of his conquests.
All right.
From 1205 to 1209 is the first invasion of the Hisa. It's a Tangut kingdom. It served as the border state between northwest China and Mongolia. And the conflict ended with the Hisa declaring allegiance to Genghis Khan, something they would break a few years later. In 1215, he turns his attention to the Jin dynasty, and the fall of Beijing at the end of that year marks Mongolian control of everything north of the Yellow River. And the Jin Empire, this very proud Chinese empire, is reduced to a border state between the Song dynasty and the Mongolians.
I see why they would want to build a wall now. I do.
Yep.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. That wall was there already.
Yep.
Genghis just tore through it.
Yep. 1218, the Karakitai fall to Mongolia. This is a state in eastern Turkestan. 1219 to 1225. This is one of the bloodier conflicts. There is the war with Khiva, which is the Khwarizm, was a sultanate in western Turkestan, and there was reports that the people of Khiva were assassinating Muslim subjects of Genghis Khan in Otrar. This provides the pretense for the war. It was probably true. And in 1220 and 1221, Bukhara, Samarkand, and Urgench are all sacked by the Mongols, and Urgench is the capital of the Khiva. And Mongols win by targeting irrigation systems. They go out of their way to destroy the farming infrastructure, so much so that it takes over 500 years to recover.
Oh man.
God.
Centuries of, because this is a well-built irrigation. They don't recover from this. I'm just gonna say it. They've technically recovered. They don't recover.
God, that's intense to destroy an entire food system like that.
And
Yeah, that's a war crime, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
If not, it's close.
Yeah. 1223. The Mongols used this war as an excuse to cross the Caucasus Mountains and occupy Crimea.
Not Crimea.
They occupy
There's a lot of
Crimea.
interest there, isn't there?
At that point, that'd be
of-
the Tartars. No, the Tatars.
The Tartars are the Mongols that do that.
Oh.
Tartars are a Mongol tribe.
Oh.
The Tartars
Justin,
are the
now you
Mongol.
know.
Yeah, the Tartars are the Mongol tribe that become the Golden Horde of Russia that are eventually taken out by Moscow.
Damn.
Yeah. And finally, 1226 to 1227 is the second invasion of the Hisa. This is because the Hisa broke their broke faith with the Mongolians when they refused to aid in the destruction of the Khiva. It was a war half a world away. They said, we have no part in this. We're not sending troops. And the one thing you must do as a Mongolian vassal is provide soldiers for the Mongolian army.
Yeah.
So the Mongolians take vengeance. It's a punitive campaign. It's designed for one purpose: destroy as much of this as possible. Genghis Khan dies on campaign here personally. And they take that as an excuse and a personal insult to just avenge him on these people.
Damn.
And it is the end of the Hisa culture, which is a mix of Chinese, Tibetan, and Buddhist elements sort of come together to form this unique way of life.
They killed
And
the
it is like and this is the one culture that the Mongolians explicitly go out of their way to wipe from the face of the earth as a military conquest.
Purely because they defied orders to go to battle.
No, because Genghis Khan dies while punishing them for
yeah.
orders to go to battle.
Sorry, I skipped a few points in between.
Yeah, no. They're there to punish them. They were originally planning to sack a bunch of cities, burn fields, enslave people. The usual Mongolian trifecta. Genghis Khan, however, dies not from any fault of them while this campaign is going on. And they unleash their rage at his death on these people.
Oh.
And it is the end of them. Yes. Yep. Got a little bit. Got some stuff. I'm not sure where we want to go next for this, but one of the fun things I want to talk about with them is Mongolians were actually master spy masters and propagandists. We know them for their mounted horsemen. We know them for the speed with which they moved, but they were very good at sussing you out and getting it known in any city they were going to attack that if you surrendered, nothing bad would happen. But if one man resists, all shall perish.
Oh.
God, I hate to be the one dude who
Fuck.
just like threw like a rock or something.
Yep. You were given a very public chance to surrender. If you took it, your garrison, whoever soldiers you had defending you, would march with the Mongol army to the next city. Refuse, and there shall be nothing but rubble.
God
Uh,
damn,
and they use their reputation with the Hisa to solicit a lot of surrenders
Well,
after that incident.
yeah, they hear the stories that came out of that region and go, "I'm not gonna be like that guy."
Yep.
Fuck.
especially a city that they know, especially a city where they know they're heavily outnumbered
Mm-hmm.
and there's almost no chance.
Yep.
Do you really blame them?
No. And yeah, and one of the big things the Mongolians actually needed was the people from the garrisons of the cities they were taking to actually take any city that resisted. Because, fun fact, Mongolians don't make siege weapons; they have no engineers.
So
Oh,
then tell us, what was their armies consisted of?
They focused on
horse archers don't seem
yeah,
to be very
it was
effective in a siege.
yeah, it's not. So they focused on mobility and speed with coordinated movers. They had maneuvers. They had complex series of signals. You could get messages back and forth very fast. And basically, what they would do is they would try and fight you in open plains, and they would flood around you, firing arrows. And they actually almost never would engage in close quarters combat. They would use volley after volley to decimate and disorient you, and try and hit you from every side from a distance. And only then would they charge in once your lines had been broken and your ranks were faltering to sort of drive you to retreat.
Wow, so they black out the skies with volleys of arrows.
Yeah,
Then we'll fight in the shade.
Oh no.
yeah, yeah, and it works pretty well for them. There's a lot of open territory. Any settled agricultural society is going to have fields. Guess where the Mongol army is? In the
Oh.
fields. It's pretty messed up. They actually were known for coordinating multiple armies with their signals and messenger systems. So you'd be facing down one army, and another would come and cut off your route back to the city. You'd be encircled by another army you didn't even know was in your territory.
That's kind of cool though that they had that
They,
kind of live communication because communication in the
Yes.
fog of war
Yeah.
makes
Yeah,
or break battles.
yeah, these people had as close as you could get to real-time communication between armies across continents.
I mean, if you think about it, even though if no one, for anyone at home, if you have not seen any sort of video or at least have any understanding of how medieval armor worked, basically there was no, like, an arrow would bounce off like front facing any plate of armor. Even if it got into the chink of some places, it might get, it might pierce a bit, but it wouldn't be necessarily a death blow. But when it comes to a quite literally a cloud of arrows, one of them's gonna hit you.
Also,
And,
not to mention that suits of armor like that were very rare. Chainmail was more common.
Even then,
Okay.
a very well made gambeson can still catch
Yeah.
an arrow and you wouldn't
Yeah.
be killed.
Yeah, and yeah, most of what these people are using are hide and leather gambesons rather than plate armor or even chainmail. Most of these people they're fighting are, at this time, with the exception of the Chinese and Korean territories, are either Eastern Europeans, which are a little behind on the technology. They need metal doesn't work as well for them because of how cold it is, or the desert people of the former Persian Empire, which again, metal doesn't work as well for them. These people like lighter armor by virtue of where they live, which means the archer volleys are that much more effective.
Yeah, that's true.
So, obviously, at this point, gunpowder had been discovered in China. Was it beginning to be
It-
used in warfare?
Gunpowder has not made its major debut in warfare in the terms of things like muskets, pistols, and rifles. However, cannon are in use.
Okay.
it's not like the cannons
it's
we think of.
yeah.
Think of it
Um,
more of like a ballista
it's
with the arrow,
yeah,
like the large arrow, but with gunpowder being
it's yeah. There's
the launching mechanism rather than a
there's
coiled
cannons.
spring.
Yeah, there's primitive cannons. There's a firework charges. I believe the Chinese have was it the halucha, which is a box of arrows. You light a fuse and gunpowder shoots about 50 arrows at once.
Yeah, I think the nickname for it is the beehive.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a
See,
nightmare to
I was
deal with.
just thinking the little like firework, the bomb in a bags, basically.
No,
However, you do get
uh,
sometimes
you
grenades do look like that, like
yes,
Crusader level grenades. Yes, there were Crusader grenades.
yeah, sapper and grenaders. I don't believe have quite come into existence yet. They they would be being invented around this time. I believe that would be the 14th century, and we're in the 13th century right now.
No holy hand grenades then, for
No,
shame.
no. The Christian Crusader states see some of the first use of sappers, and I believe they're still like another 40 years out.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's I think during the Third Crusade where you actually really see it,
Yeah, but
or at
to
least
get us,
some version of
to
it.
get us back to the Khans themselves, with the succession of Genghis Khan, a gather or the death of him, there's a gathering of the Mongol tribes to elect a new Khan. Now, Jochi, Genghis's eldest heir, had died 6 months before Genghis, and because of this, the law of primogeniture was overridden. Jochi's son, I believe Batu, yes, Jochi's son Batu is passed over in favor of Chagatai. Uh, Additionally, if I am not mistaken, Ogadai, the second son of Genghis Khan, is also passed over in favor of Chagatai because Chagatai is the third born son of Genghis Khan by law. So there's a lot of people who get slighted here.
The notes have it the other way around, where Ogadai was elected over Chagatai.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yes, Ogadai gets over. Yes, no, no. What are you? Stop! We've done so much last minute editing on this thing. I'm bound to have like turned something around.
Yeah, it's
I'm going back to where they're listed as a thing.
sorry, I don't mean to call it out, but you were saying one thing and the notes were
Yeah. All right. Ogadai get all right. So basically, prima gender is ignored. Ogadai gets elected over Chagatai. Ogadai is, I believe, younger.
okay.
All right. That's something that's backwards in the other thing. All right. Now Tului, his youngest son, serves as Genghis's heir, and he kind of gets a chip on his shoulder because he was Genghis's regent when he was the heir. He was youngest heir. He was Genghis's regent, and he ruled for the 2-year interregnum period that it took these people to get together and vote.
Well, yeah, I can imagine
And
all the people coming in from all across the kingdom.
yeah,
It's not something that
it,
happens overnight.
the election of a Khan takes between 2 and 6 years, and so he's kind of slighted because he was the regent. He feels he should have that power. Batu is slighted because he's the firstborn son of the firstborn son. There's a lot of shit things going on here that get confusing. But from 1229 to 1241, Ogadai is Khan. He rules from Karakoram on the Orhan River, or the Onan River, and unlike his father, who was always on campaign, he spends most of his time coordinating the campaigns of his relatives rather than leading the charge himself. He's a much more administrative minded man, which is good. He retains Yelu Chukai, the Jin, who was one of the most well educated men of his age, as his chief advisor. And he begins the Khan's weird love affair with Christianity.
Oh no.
Yes.
He appoints
Here
he
we
appoints
go.
he appoints uh he appoints a Nestorian Christian who was one of the 5 main Mongol tribes, as the record keeper of his court. And this is going to have several issues for a number of branches of the Khans after the period of unity, and also during some of these successions, as uh, Islam and traditional shamanism clash with the Nestorian Christians in a number of succession crises.
It's a very
But
fun time.
yeah,
Nestorianism is a very interesting branch of Christianity.
it is technically recognized as heretical by most of the other branches, which is saying something because they all actually agree on that one point. It's actually kind of unique in history. But yeah, so he's a very stern and energetic alcoholic. As a ruler, that's it. Those are the 3 traits that everyone seems to attribute to him. And he begins a series of conquests, which, because he's coordinating them from a central headquarters, happen a lot more rapidly than they did under his father. 1231, he begins military operations in Iran, Georgia, and Greater Armenia. 1234, he conquers the last Jin kingdom through an alliance with the Song dynasty.
Oh, wow.
1234, Kathang, the Jin capital, fell, and Azong, the last Jin emperor, is forced to commit suicide.
Oh, whoa.
1236, campaigns against Russia and Eastern Europe begin. This is where the Mongols begin to attempt to take everything west or everything east of the Rhine River. And they nearly do it. 1236, Georgia bends the knee to Mongolia.
Damn it, Georgia.
1237 to 1238, the Volga Bulgars are annihilated. And we do mean annihilated. They almost go the way of the Hisa.
Yeah, didn't they migrate into the Balkans?
Yeah, the Volga Bulgars get to flee into the Balkans. Hisa had nowhere to run.
That's true, yeah.
The Russian city-states begin falling one by one. Winter saves Novgorod from being sacked by the Mongols. It becomes one of the few Russian cities to never be sacked. They are They're able to make peace by other means.
Winter saves Russia way too often.
However, this one's Novgorod, not Moscow. Moscow
gets hit. Moscow gets hit. 1240, Kiev falls to the Mongols.
No, not.
Raids into Poland, Galicia, and Volhynia, which is northwestern Ukraine, begin. Wrocław becomes the furthest city the Mongols take. In 1241, the Mongols make a major victory at Legnica, which against a united Polish and Holy Roman Empire force, devastating the armies of both nations and leaving once again everything east of the Rhine River open. However, they turn south to take the Balkans. They want to attack Hungary because Hungary had sheltered the Kipchaks, who had been fleeing from the Mongols. This is also where a lot of the Volga Bulgars wound up. And the Mongols do not take kindly to people accepting asylum.
Ooh.
It's no easy feat.
Yeah.
To take on the combined forces of Poland and the entire Holy Roman Empire.
Yep.
I mean, granted, the Holy Roman Empire was very decentralized on its own, but like,
so is Mongolia.
That is a real feat.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is only one front of the war because they're still fighting in Syria too.
God.
Yeah.
They're fighting in Russia, Syria, and Hungary at this time.
A war on two fronts? You can't have a war on two fronts if it's all on one side of the world.
See, the trick is to just keep conquering people, and then they replenish your fallen soldiers.
Yeah, that's the Mongolian strategy. It's about going for the next domino.
Hashtag infinite soldier hack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should really nerf that.
Yeah, it's very fun. 1241, the victory at Mohi is the Mongol conquest of Hungary. The Hungarian king flees across the border and seeks asylum in another country. There's no army, there's no government. The Mongolians begin to mint coins depicting themselves in Hungary. However, in 1241, Ogadai Khan dies, and the need for his generals to be present at the election of the next great Khan results in the abandonment of the territory as they rush home and attempt to enforce a claim on the throne.
Oh no.
From 1242 to 1246, Toragene, widow of Ogadai, rules. And she rules with the full authority of her husband and the consent of the Mongolian people. There is no you're only a regent. There is no sexism half power. There is only her will. as if she were a reigning Khan until one is elected.
Wow.
Talk about being a girl boss.
Yeah. And Toragene, she is smart. She knows the political game because she campaigns for the election of her son Guyuk to the Khan, who is opposed by Batu, Genghis's the son of the eldest son of Genghis Khan. And it's basically, you're the firstborn of the thirdborn. I'm the firstborn of the firstborn. I should have the throne. Toragene makes the firstborn of the thirdborn king. The election is actually witnessed by the papal envoy to the Mongolians. The Pope has an embassy in Karakorum at this time.
That is the coolest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, Giovanni da Pian del Carpini is the man appointed who witnesses the election. And he is very pleased with the election of Guyuk, because Guyuk becomes the first and only Christian Khan. Guyuk, son of Ogadai, is a Nestorian. And part of the reason why Batu hates him so much is Batu is a traditional shamanist and believes in no other religion. Batu lacks the general religious tolerance of most of his contemporary Khans.
Jeez, that's an oof from me, boss.
Oh, goddamn.
Even though it's heretical, it's still technically Christian, and the Orthodox and Catholic churches had been working together for some time. So what the hell? What's one more at this point? If it gets you Asia, it gets you Asia.
I guess, yeah.
If it provides better relations and maybe put off the Mongolian horde, why not?
And the result of this is Batu prepares for civil war. However, Guyuk dies in 1248, 2 years after being elected Khan, so no war actually takes place. Benefits of having armies on opposite sides of the world. If my army's at Worklaw and your army's at Karakorum, it's going to take a while for them to meet. And because Guyuk is dead, there is no war for the Khanites. From 1248 to 1251, Ugu Gamesh, Guyuk's wife, rules during the interregnum period. And because of how long this shit is taking, Batu is forced to give up his ambitions to be Khan because he is like super old at this point. The man was an adult when Genghis Khan died 21 years prior. His age is starting to show. So Batu throws his support behind Munke, son of Tuloy, who was the youngest of Genghis Khan's heirs. And thus, the Chagatai are passed over once again in favor of Munke, because with Batu backing him, no one can really oppose the vote. He's got the majority. And so from 1251 to 1259, we have the reign of Munke Khan.
Munke Khan.
Yep. Now, Munke is considered one of the most benevolent monarchs of the great Khans. He is one of the most benevolent monarchs of any Khanite.
Honestly, I think the standard was pretty low.
Is he pushes hard on his predecessor Guyuk's policy of universal religious tolerance.
Wow.
You cannot be persecuted for believing in any deity of your choice. He also decides to make his capital, Karakorum, resplendent. He is the first Khan to invest in the city he's living in.
I mean, about time.
You know, I
honestly.
wonder if he's just walking around like, this could do with a little sprucing up. Maybe we put some money here and make this look a little bit better.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't just throw our waste in the streets.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 years into his reign, Willem van Roosburg is visiting Karakorum, and he describes it as this wondrous sight. Buddhist temples, Muslim mosques, and Christian churches side by side. Envoys from all the world meet at Karakorum. There is not a man of any nationality in the world, not here. Now, by in the world, of course, they mean, a Eurasia.
Oh.
Maybe Northern Africa. Like, again, they have a limited concept of what the world is.
That's just still really great.
But it's the most cosmopolitan city in the world.
I also love that he's European, so like for him seeing this kind of religious tolerance must be so alien. Like, oh my god, I could go to church next to a mosque.
I mean,
heathens everywhere.
I mean, like it also depends. I mean, the Middle East at this time also.
Yeah,
I know from a very European centric, we think that the Middle East, even during the Crusades, was very Muslim centric, and to a degree, yes, it technically is, but Christians and Muslims and Jews were all living in relatively
it's just
peacefully.
I think
the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, has since like the 800s has been protected by a Muslim family. Yeah. So like this is still like that's still really impressive, but that isn't like
it's not the only place where it happened. However, what's most impressive about it is like in Karakorum, I believe from what I understand of this man's writing, there isn't like a Christian quarter, a Jewish quarter, a Muslim quarter. There is a religious quarter where all the temples are. It's not like, oh, here's the 10 blocks where the Christians live, there's a church. Oh, 10 blocks over is where the Jews live, there's a synagogue. It's all right next to each other.
What if they had like soccer games every now and then?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I like to imagine that. Like they all just like play like some sport together.
Yeah. No. But yeah.
Like, it was fun, like a friendly competition. Like everybody got together, brought food. It was fun.
Yeah. Sure.
I think that actually happened in Central America. Actually,
there have been wars over a single pig.
There was a war over a bucket too.
Yep. Yep. Yes, they did. Anywho, so Monkey has two brothers, Hulegu and Kublai. Kublai is the second most famous Khan of all, behind his grandfather Genghis. And in 1255, Monkey resumes his notable conquests. He sends his brother Hulegu to subdue Iran because only northern Iran answered to Mongolia at this time. He wants the rest of it. And in 1256, Hulegu defeats the assassin sects and advances into Iraq. Yes, there was a group of people known as the Assassins. They were a sect of Muslims.
Oh, the Hashashadin or something like that.
Yes. Assassin's Creed had some basis in history.
Yeah, assassins rise up.
Oh god, the Hashashin. Oh god, I've butchered that so badly.
But anyway, 2 years later, 1258, Hulegu sacks Baghdad and puts the last Abbasid caliph to death.
Oh, that's
The
impressive.
Abbasids are dead.
Wow.
The Christian and Shiites welcome the Mongols because the Sunni Caliphate had been oppressing them, and Monkey Kong has that policy of universal religious tolerance. So they're very happy. He's actually welcomed by a number of minority sects in these territories as a liberator rather than a conqueror, which is a weird new feeling for the Mongols. They will not experience it often.
Wait, you mean we're doing good by coming
Yeah,
here? Like,
it's pretty much like what's that noise they're making with their hands? They're applauding.
you mean they're not mad at
What
me?
does it mean? It's just it's oh yeah, it's so bad. And 1259, Legu invades Syria, takes Damascus and Aleppo, and the Mongol Empire reaches the Mediterranean Sea.
Not
At
quite the Atlantic like Genghis wanted, but
I still feel
Make
like
it
there should
fair.
be some like level up music with that.
and in 1260, the first great military defeat of the Mongolians occurs. For in 1260, the Battle of Injalut sees the Mongol attempt to invade Egypt killed dead in its tracks. The Mamluks of Egypt crush the Mongol horde and send them skimpering back into the Palestine.
That's impressive. How do they manage that?
Yeah.
I don't exactly know.
Like
There
that,
was
like
a lot to research. I didn't have time to look into this one battle, unfortunately.
I mean, that's just impressive.
Mhm.
The combined forces of Poland and the
And
Holy Empire didn't stop, but the Mamluks did.
yeah,
I mean, nothing to say. Like that's not saying like the
the
Mamluks
Mamluks were pretty
like,
good at this time.
like they were pretty impressive, but like again, that's still impressive.
I just
Yeah,
imagine that at this point the army has traveled so far, the leaders are kind of fatigued. I just imagine that it's like partially they came up against a stronger enemy than they thought, but also part of it was they've been conquering for how long now?
yeah, it has been 50 years of conquest. However, one of the biggest issues behind it is just, I believe, the simple geography of where they are. Also, the Mongolian Empire is currently fighting wars on two of its furthest fronts because while they're attacking Egypt, uh, Monkey has sent his other brother Kublai to invade the Chinese of the Song dynasty. So they are fighting in what is southeast China and Egypt simultaneously. Before their multi front wars were usually relatively close together. I'm invading Russia, you're invading the Caucasus. Things like that. Not anymore. There's no helping each other out.
Jeez.
And Kublai, although he has a lot less conquest than his brother, proves himself to be a tactical genius because he outmaneuvers the Chinese army sent to stop him by moving through Annam, which was an independent Thai kingdom of the Nan Chao. So basically, the Song armies are marching to the border with Mongolia to fight Kublai. He instead invades another country, conquers it, and then moves in behind the Chinese army to take them out.
Military genius.
It's like
He starts a
that's
second
not
war
fair.
just to do that.
Yeah, he starts a second war to win the first war. It's like it's literally the definition. He can't do that.
He did a side quest to level up to do the
Yep.
main quest.
Yep. Yeah. 1257, Monkey steps in to personally take over Kublai's campaign in China because it is such a military. Kublai's looking a little too good
Yeah.
at his job.
Where have I seen that before?
And in 1259, Monkey dies during the siege of Sichuan. which leads to the 1260 election of Kublai Khan.
So he was really good at his job.
Yep.
Yeah, really.
Kublai becomes the first Khan to secure his election without returning to Karakorum.
Wow.
He secures it from a military outpost in the field.
He did it in absentia. Damn.
Yep. Yeah, he did in Eseptia, which causes his brother Arijboje to go to Karakorum and declare himself Khan. And this causes a major schism in the Mongolian Empire. Because even though in 1264, 4 years later, Kublai captures Arijboje and Arijboje will die in captivity in 1266. Becomes apparent to everyone that you don't need to go to Karakorum to win. You, in fact, don't need to have anything to do with the Khan in Mongolia.
Ooh.
What authority does he actually exude over you? You live as kings. You live as conquerors. The Khan's rule over you is nominal at best. And because of this, Möngke Khan becomes the last of the great Khans because he is the last Khan that all members of the royal family, all members of the imperial clan, all Mongols truly acknowledge as their leader. Even though Kublai will go on to found the Yuan dynasty of China, even though Kublai will do things far greater than Möngke ever does, Kublai is not a great Khan because the Ilkhanites, the Tartars, the Golden Horde, the Sharabayids, the Chagatai Khans do not really, truly pay heed to him.
God damn.
Yeah. Additionally, it's been almost 60 years. Much of the people now ruling the various uluses of Genghis Khan's sons have grown up in these foreign places far from Mongolia. The culture of these lands is being felt. You're Mongol, yes, but you're a Mongol of Persia. You're a Mongol of Russia. You're a Mongol of China. The cultures of these lands are having an impact, and that's further driving people apart. And that kind of brings about the end of the Khans. Additionally, the Mongol Khans begin to convert to Buddhism and Islam. And the cultural ties of those religions to the various regions the Khans are in starts further driving them apart. Specifically, the Ilkhans and I believe the Golden Horde Khans really start to hate each other on the basis of religion.
Oh no.
Additionally, signifying the death of the unified Mongol Empire is the decision by Kublai to transfer his capital from Karakorum to Beijing.
Ooh.
The Khan is no longer in the capital. The capital is no longer in Mongolia. It's roughly the end. And Kublai does rule. He has, I think, perhaps the longest reign of any Khan, great or otherwise. He rules for 34 years.
That's pretty good.
That's solid.
1260 to 1294. And most of his rule is unchallenged. Most of his rule does have nominal lip service paid to him as Khan. But the illusion has been shattered with his election, with the manner in which he took to get it. And his grandson who succeeds him, less and less Khans recognize it. And it's sort of the dissolution of the Mongol Empire from a single empire into a collection of dynasties, at least one of which lasts all the way into the early 20th century.
Wow.
I think, yeah. Yeah, the last of Genghis Khan's descendants, the last patrilineal Khan, is deposed in 1920 by the Soviet Revolution.
Oof.
That's insane.
Yeah,
Honestly, that's really insane. Just imagine that any
and
descendant of Genghis Khan was actually still ruling in some capacity.
yeah, and no, it was not the he was not a Romanov. He was not a czar. He was a he was head of one of the vassal territories of the Russian Empire.
See, now I wish he didn't say that because I would have liked to leave it on the note that people think the Romanovs are secretly descendants of the Khans.
I'm not doing. There's enough conspiracy theories with how that ended for them to begin with. All right, and who survived getting shot out in the Ural Mountains?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
There's enough conspiracy theories. They don't need us adding on to something about the cons.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, they have enough problems. Let them rest. But oh,
That's a good way to end it, I
yeah,
think.
that's enough. I feel bad about talking so much, but there was just so much to go over.
The cons themselves is a huge topic, and I think we really just
Yep.
scratched the surface on that. It's on just
We really,
them itself.
yeah, we have literally done nothing but list kings and conquests for the last 90 minutes.
There is literally so much more, and it's
Yeah.
almost impossible to do.
Mhm.
It's even in an hour or so.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, this is the beginning of season 2. It's our first episode of season 2. We are so happy to have you with us, and we hope to make it another year.
Yeah, so
Yes.
like, comment, subscribe so we can come back another year.
And if you guys stick along with us for a year, I'll just throw this out there. If we are continuing 1 year from now, we will revisit the cons and talk about a different branch. How does
We
that
will
sound?
we will dive into all that stuff. I've been hinting at this whole time, all those wonderful notes I have on all the various Khan dynasties.
To the
Like the
cryogenic
Golden
freezer they
Horde,
go.
like the Khanate, the Golden Horde, the
Yeah. Oh,
Uzbek.
you want the list of them? Here we
There's a
go. Last
lot.
list
There's a
of what's to
lot,
come.
guys.
All
Oh
right.
no.
Yuan Dynasty cons, Chagatai Empire cons, Shabanid Dynasty cons, Ilkhans of Iran, uh, the Golden Horde, aka the Kipchak Khanite. Those are the major groups.
And each one
You
has
could
a
hear
wild
you could hear
story.
about them all in just 12 months.
Beautiful. All
Yeah, so
right.
be sure to stick around and like, comment, and subscribe.
Thank you
Ring
guys.
that bell.
Yes. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. Thank you
And
guys. Oh,
yep. And before we thank you for watching, next episode will be on Stonehenge. So we're gonna go all the way to prehistoric and the lithic phases of humanity.
oh, beautiful. That'll be lovely. And that should align roughly with the winter solstice, although I think a few days after. But yeah,
Close enough.
keep your eyes peeled out. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Yep.